Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Happy Friday evening. I'm sure no one is happier than Elon Musk tonight. This is breaking from the AP and Yahoo News, and I'm going to read this with you. I actually saw the headline and I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and interactively read this with you, and we'll find out what's going on. Anyway, jury clears Musk of wrongdoing related to 2018 Tesla tweets. So the 2018 Tesla tweets were when he said thinking about taking Tesla private, funding secured. He got in big trouble with the SEC, and so we'll see. It looks like he actually won, which is pretty darn amazing. So here we have a picture, him leaving the federal courthouse in San Francisco, by the way, and that was a big sticking point. Was people said that he might actually lose just because of where it was. He had requested that they move it to Texas. But anyway, high profile trial focused on a 2018 tweet about the financing for a Tesla buyout that never happened. Drew a surprise spectator, Elon Musk, the billionaire who's being accused of misleading investors with his usage of Twitter that he now owns. So anyway, there we go. And so Michael Ledke, I hope is correct. Anyway, so a jury on Friday decided Elon Musk did not deceive investors with his 2018 tweet about electric automaker Tesla. The verdict by the 9 jurors was reached after less than 2 hours of deliberation following a 3-week trial and represents a major vindication for Musk. So FYI, the longer that a jury deliberates, the more likely it is that the decision will go badly for the defendant. Just in general, psychologically wise, if you think about like a murder trial, if you're going to say somebody's guilty of murder, you're going to think about that a lot longer and harder than probably if you want to let the person off. So anyway, it was probably a good indication of things going potentially well, just given the fact that it was less than 2 hours of deliberation. The trial pitted Tesla investors represented in a class action lawsuit against Musk, who is CEO of both the electric automaker, Tesla, of course, and the Twitter service he bought for $44 billion a few months ago. Now, of course, he was not the owner of Twitter in 2018 when he made these tweets. In 2018, Musk tweeted that he had the financing to take Tesla private, even though it turned out he hadn't gotten an ironclad commitment for an aborted deal that would have cost $20 billion to $70 billion to pull off. And all of us investors, by the way, in Tesla are incredibly happy that this did not happen, because otherwise we would have been out an awful lot of money that we've made over the years. So all of us, as opposed to class action lawsuit, all of us are actually pretty happy that this never happened. Anyway, and also just FYI, part of that tweet originally was, am thinking about taking Tesla private. Wasn't am going to take Tesla private, right? So that's a big, big caveat with this whole thing. Anyway, Musk's integrity was at stake at the trial, as well as part of a fortune that has established him as one of the world's richest people. He could have been saddled with a bill for billions of dollars in damages, had the jury found him liable for the 2018 tweets that had already been deemed falsehoods by the judge presiding over the trial. All right. Earlier Friday, Musk sat stoically in court while he was both vilified as a rich narcissist, whose reckless behavior risks, quote, anarchy, and hailed as a visionary looking out for the, quote, little guy in the trial's closing arguments. In closing the trials. Yeah, I think that is bad statement. It's bad writing on their part. Anyway, the trial hinged on whether Musk's tweeting in 2018 misled Tesla shareholders, steering them in a direction that they argue cost them billions of dollars. Interesting case here. The civil case centered on 2 tweets Musk posted on August 7th, 2018 about a Tesla buyout that never happened. So just a quick FYI, in 2018, that was during production hell, and that was when there was a reasonable chance that Tesla could have gone bankrupt because the Model 3 was not getting ramped up as quickly as they'd hoped, and they were burning through tons of cash, very cash flow negative. So it was a very stressful time for everyone involved, including Elon Musk. And there's the famous picture of him with a piece of cardboard like over his chest, sleeping against a wheel of one of the Teslas that's being produced on the factory floor. So it was that time when he did this, and so you can see why he might have been in some little bit of extremist. How is that? Anyway, the first tweet posted just before he boarded his private jet, Musk declared he had funding secured to take Tesla private. A few hours later, Musk sent another tweet indicating that the deal was imminent. The tweets caused Twitter stock to surge during a 10-day period, covered by the lawsuit before falling back after Musk abandoned a deal in which he had never had a firm financing commitment based on evidence presented during the 3-week trial. Musk's decision to show up for the closing arguments, even though his presence wasn't required, underscored the importance of the trial's outcome to him. Nicholas Porritt, a lawyer for the Tesla shareholders, urged the jurors to rebuke Musk for his, quote, loose relationship with the truth. Our society is based on rules, Porritt said. We need rules to save us from anarchy. Rules should apply to Elon Musk like everybody else. End quote. Alex Spiro, very famous, I should not get his name wrong. Alex Spiro, Musk's attorney, conceded the 2018 tweets were, quote, technically inaccurate, but he told jurors, quote, just because it's a bad tweet doesn't make it a fraud. U.S. District Judge Edwin Chen, who presided over the trial, decided last year that Musk's 2018 tweets were false and has instructed the jury to view them that way. So that means that he couldn't even argue that the tweets were true. He just had to go with the fact that they were false. During the roughly 8 hours on the stand earlier in the trial, Musk insisted he believed he had lined up the funds from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund to take Tesla private after 8 years as a publicly held company. He defended his initial August 2018 tweet as well-intentioned and aimed at ensuring all Tesla investors knew the automaker might be on its way to ending its run as a publicly held company. I had no ill motive, Musk testified, quote, my intent was to do the right thing for all shareholders. Spiro echoed that theme in his closing argument. Quote, he was trying to include the retail shareholder, the mom and pop, the little guy, and not seize more power for himself, Spiro said. Porritt, meanwhile, scoffed at the notion that Musk could have concluded he had a firm commitment after a 45-minute meeting at a Tesla factory on July 31st, 2018, with Yasser Al-Rumayyan, I hope I got that decently correct, governor of Saudi Arabia's wealth fund, given that there was no written documentation. A text message that Al-Rumayyan sent later in August that is part of the trial evidence also indicated that the Saudi fund was only interested in learning more about Musk's proposal to take Tesla private at a time the company was valued at about $60 billion. Apparently, a $60 billion financing commitment was obtained and no one wrote down a single word, Porritt said, while asserting that amount was larger than the combined economic output of Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador. I don't know exactly what that has to do with anything. I guess it's trying to put an emotional spin on the whole thing. Continuing on, quote, Elon Musk apparently thinks it is easier to get billions of dollars in financing than an auto loan or a mortgage, Porritt added. So just to break away for just 1 second here, the Saudi Arabian Wealth Fund is who is supporting Lucid Motors. They are I think it's 45% share in Lucid or something like that. So you can clearly see that they have had an abiding interest in EV manufacturers. So I find it really interesting. Of course, you probably can't put that in a 2018 trial, but in terms of their history, it doesn't seem unreasonable that this wealth fund would have been very interested in securing funding or providing funding for Tesla in 2018, since they did that with Lucid a couple of years later. All right. Continuing on, Spiro, though, pointed to Musk's track record helping to start and run a list of companies that include digital payment pioneer PayPal and rocket ship maker SpaceX, in addition to Tesla. The automaker, based in Austin, Texas, previously in Fremont, California, by the way, which is across the bay from San Francisco, is now worth nearly $600 billion despite a steep decline in its stock price last year amid concerns that Musk's purchase of Twitter would distract him from Tesla. So again, the class action lawsuit says we were hurt by these false claims, whereas if they just held the stock for a period of time, they would have made a lot of money in the meantime. So these are, day traders that are grousing about the fact that there was an elevated stock and then they sold off, or they didn't sell it fast enough and then it collapsed, yada, yada, yada. It's rich people crying, basically. That's what we got here. Anyway, continuing on, recalling Musk's roots as a South African immigrant who came to Silicon Valley to create revolutionary tech companies, Spiro described his client, quote, as the kind of person who believes the impossible is possible. And actually, I kind of like that. I was just doing I did a video the other day with Pedro Teixeira, and we were talking about how entrepreneurs are by nature optimists. They kind of always believe that the impossible is possible. So certainly Elon Musk is that on steroids, right? Anyway, Port put a different twist on Musk's mindset during his presentation. Quote, to Elon Musk, if he believes it or just thinks about it, it's true. In his concluding remarks, Port told jurors their decision will boil down to their answer to one question. Do the rules apply to everyone, or can Elon Musk do whatever he wants and not face consequences? All right. And then on to the comments. So just very, very quickly here, this was a big deal. Elon Musk had already paid the SEC, I can't remember, it was multiple millions of dollars. Tesla had paid some money and he had paid some money, and basically had admitted guilt for this whole thing because he said that they essentially had a gun to his head and that he couldn't do anything about it, and they couldn't deal with, Tesla could not deal with the bad publicity and going to trial and everything in 2018 when they were in such dire straits. Now he has definitely turned the tables. He said recently, if I'm remembering correctly, it was last summer sometime, he said that he's putting together the stellar team of lawyers who are street fighters and are willing to go to court and take it all the way through to the end instead of just backing out and doing a plea bargain. So this, in my mind, is probably the first instance of this, at least the most high-profile instance of this that we've seen. They could have settled out of court very easily. He probably could have paid a couple of $1 million, or for him, it doesn't matter, 10 or 20 million dollars to make this thing go away. But he is very, Elon Musk, I've talked about before, is very hardcore about the truth. He's almost pathologically honest. I think I've said. I think that's the term I use for him. Is pathologically honest, and he wants justice and he wants the truth to come out, and he is unwilling to deal with it not going that way. So rather than doing a plea bargain, rather than cutting a backroom deal, paying these people off with some amount of money, he was like, I don't care what it costs. I don't care about the odds and, the bad stuff that could happen if I lose. I want this case to be settled in the right way, and I want my day in court. So clearly he's had his day in court. Anyway, I think he's got to be a happy man tonight. So hopefully people are congratulating him and giving him a big pat on the back. As for the class action lawsuit, I mean, come on, guys. It definitely did say, am thinking about taking it private, funding secured. The funding secured part is a little bit iffy, but the whole thing was never considered to be a definite thing. And I'm glad that the jury saw that it did not come up to the status of fraud. Anyway, everybody have a lovely weekend, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.